All right, hello and welcome back to another edition, a video edition of the Box Lacrosse Rundown. Going to focus a little bit on some of the series in Ontario this week, and then bounce around a little bit to BC as well. So the big story throughout the second half of this week has been the series between the Peterborough Lakers and the Six Nations Arrows. So Six Nations goes up 2-0, including a win in Peterborough in game one, come back to the ILA, defend home floor in a fun game that Peterborough led early, scored 3 goals in the first 5 minutes. Six Nations comes back and uses a huge third period to win that game. Then Peterborough goes home, wins 10-9 on a penalty shot goal in overtime to win it by Daniel Clark, and then goes back to the ILA and wins 7-6. Peterborough looking to become the first team to pull a reverse sweep, albeit in a 5-game series since 2009. The last team to do it was the Orangeville Northmen. They were down 3-0 to the Brampton Excelsiors, ended up coming back and winning that game in 7. The 2011 Peterborough Lakers came back from 2-0 down, or from 3-0 down, in a best of 7 as well, but lost in game 7. So they were down 3-0, got all the way back, and lost in game 7. So obviously a 5-game series, a little bit easier to pull this reverse sweep, and the home games are going to help. But this Friday tonight, I'll be at the Memorial Center for a game 5 between Six Nations and Peterborough. That's going to be really fun. Two kind of different style of teams here. Peterborough is big, strong, athletic, and they've kind of looked to impose their will a little bit on Six Nations in the games that I've watched. Their defense is aggressive, and they want to play the ball, and they've been really good so far. So that's been fun to watch. Gervais been good in the goal. And then offensively, they have a lot of guys, does Peterborough, a lot of athletic guys up front who can get to the goal. And really that's been the story is, Saga Thompson has been outstanding in the Six Nations goal. I called game 2 of this game at the ILA. Like I said, I'll be there again tonight. And Thompson was really the story in the game, just playing really, really well. He plays deeper in his goal than a lot of goalies you see nowadays, which really allows him to get to the cross-crease stuff very effectively and get pipe-to-pipe really effectively. And you kind of have seen the outcomes here in the scores. Only once in this series has either team reached 10 goals. I've been talking about all summer. Obviously the scores come down in the playoffs, but especially in this series and then in the St. Catharines Burlington series, which I'll talk about in a second, the scores really have been quite low, surprisingly low. But it's been really good lacrosse. Hasn't been a ton of after the whistle antics in either of these two series, the Six Nations series or the St. Catharines series. So I think we're set up for a really fun game out there. Jumping to the St. Catharines series, I was in St. Catharines at Canada Summer Games Park on Wednesday night, calling that game with the OJLL and Matthew Carrick. St. Catharines comes away with the victory. 7-6 is the final score against the Burlington Blaze. Kind of a tough one to call in the sense that those Burlington guys, they're champions. And, the end of the road for a lot of them, they had 13 more fifth years this year after a huge number last year on the Minto Cup team. And one of the hardest things to do as fans of this sport is to watch guys play their last junior game. So those Blaze guys should be incredibly proud. They fought right to the end. That was an outstanding game in St. Catharines in front of a big home crowd. But how important have we seen home floor advantage be, especially in elimination games? You want it, I think St. Catharines got a boost from that crowd. I would expect Peterborough to get a boost tonight, and we'll see, the effect that has on things. Really one story of these two series together is the dual trades for Noah Snyder and then for Thunder Hill. Thunder Hill scores 5 goals for St. Catharines in that game after coming over from Six Nations. And he was, just the story of the game. The score was 7-6, and one guy had 5 of the goals. And there's some highlights on lacrosse culture this week of Thunder Hill scoring those goals. And, the kid can really shoot it. If you don't know the name, get familiar with it because he doesn't need the ball very much. And, when he gets that shot off, it can really fly. I mentioned this on the call. Certain guys that I've played with, some of the smaller guys are the guys who can really shoot it hard. There's kind of a slingshot motion that some guys can get down, and Thunderhill, is in that category. Not the biggest player ever, but obviously he can really shoot it. And then on the flip side, an earlier trade with Noah Snyder brought Snyder from St. Catharines to Six Nations, and he's really been the best player, offensive player for Six Nations in the series. Another guy who can really shoot it from the outside. So a righty and a lefty, just opening up some more space on teams that needed, guys on those respective sides of the floor, and it's good to see that it's worked out well. For St. Catharines, obviously awaiting their fate here because the OJLL playoffs will reseed after the first round. So if Six Nations wins tonight, then they will play Orangeville. And if Peterborough wins, then St. Catharines will play Orangeville. So obviously significant implications for St. Catharines tonight and for Six Nations and I guess really for everybody else in the playoffs as well as teams are waiting to see, what's going to happen there. St. Catharines playing really good, honest, hard lacrosse. Nothing too crazy in that game, but they stayed out of the box. They're the least penalized team, I believe, in the OJLL. And just credit to the athletics team. They were really down and out this year. They were at 1-8, 1-9. Ended up getting a couple wins back in the, kind of the Beaches story that a lot of folks are familiar with this summer. And then they went on a run, and that run is now going to continue into the second round. So they thought they played really, really well. When they weren't playing well or when they weren't winning, it felt like they just couldn't get a couple more goals a game. And I think that is where, the Thunderhill acquisition really helps. He scores easy goals for them, right? Certain teams have to really work hard for their goals and create transition or create perfect looks in front of the net. And what a luxury it is in the playoffs to have a guy who can just step back, get his hands free, and let it loose. And if he can do it, 3 or 4 times in one game, then what a bonus that is for the Athletics. So I think that has really helped them, and they'll continue on the path forward. Obviously, if it is St. Catharines versus Orangeville, they're going to need all the goals they can get. Right? We saw Orangeville hold a really, really good Beaches offense to 6 goals, 5 goals in most of the games. And, it's going to be a tall task for them the rest of the way. Mimico obviously waiting now after beating Brampton in 3 games. Not a huge surprise there. They'll wait to see, who they get here. And either way, they're going to have a rest advantage. So I would expect, we are expecting the round 2 of the playoffs to begin Sunday here in Ontario. And we'll see what goes from there. Obviously waiting on the seeding tonight. But again, looking forward to a Peterborough Six Nations one tonight. Something to watch is Peterborough spreads it out on offense, almost like a field lacrosse offense at times, really works to get isolation looks for some of their dodging type guys. The extent to which Six Nations can support those matchups and the extent to which Sucker Thompson can make saves in those spots is going to be really important. And for Peterborough, you got to just find as many goals as you can because it's been tough sledding here all series long. But should be a fun closeout game. I think a lot of folks will be interested. Should be a great Friday night of lacrosse. And then speaking of low scoring, bouncing out to BC, Port Coquitlam takes game 1 of their series against the Nanaimo Timbermen by a score of 7-5 in another, like I said, low scoring playoff game. The leading scorer in this one, Finn Halliday, 2 goals, 2 assists for Port Coquitlam. Doc Stater scores 2 goals as well for Port Coquitlam to kind of lead the way for them. Silas Richmond, 1 goal, 2 assists. Richmond is a name you should be familiar with, had a huge season at Albany, one of the best Canadian players in the NCAA this year, and comes over at the deadline from Delta. Credit to the BCJALL, by the way, for tracking stats. Richmond has 11 shots to lead the way in this one. It seems like he was pretty aggressive. I didn't get a chance to catch this game, but a good start for Port Coquitlam in what should be a pretty low-scoring series. Matt Boaz for the Timbermen, 1 goal, 3 assists to lead the way in scoring, and then Andrew Bowman and Nicholas Ludewheeler, the only guys to score more than once. So we'll see how that one opens up. Obviously, a big home floor advantage for Port Coquitlam with the extensive travel out there. And then, that's just game 1. So long way to go for Port Coquitlam as they look to, again, the top 2 teams will make the Minto. So this really is a massive series playing, obviously not for a championship, but for a right to play in the Minto Cup, which is obviously a big opportunity. And then Coquitlam takes game 1, 12-6 over the Burnaby Lakers. This is a big game for Coquitlam. They only lost 3 or 4 games this year. 2 of them were to Burnaby, and they were back-to-back. And it wasn't like at the beginning of the season when they were missing guys. Burnaby beat them right smack dab in the middle of the season with most of their players. They made some deadline deals since then, but Burnaby beat them at full strength. So a good, kind of show of force there for Coquitlam to say, hey, it's playoff time, no more messing around. As they look to go, they will host the Minto Cup, but obviously looking to go on a run here and, not, as Conor McGregor would say, not there to take part, there to take over. Cody Malosky leads the scoring, 2 goals, 2 assists. David Charney, 4 assists. Jackson Dillon, 2 goals, 2 assists to all combined for 4 points, or to all have 4 points. Ryan Colsey, 3 goals to lead the goal scoring column for the Adanacs. If you're not familiar with Ryan Colsey, a great story on him on Lacrosse Culture Daily. An American guy, plays his college lacrosse at Virginia. One of the growing number of Americans coming up here to play box lacrosse, and credit as always to those guys. And glad to see, Ryan's had a really nice summer. Again, not a surprise given how good of a field lacrosse player he is, but he's been solid up here. 32 points in 9 games played during the regular season, and then obviously the hat trick to get things going during the playoff season. So a name to watch there. There's a lot of names that lacrosse fans should be familiar with on this Coquitlam roster. Cody Malosky is one. Noah Manning has played in some big games at Denver University alongside Malosky. Ty Banks, one of the best freshmen in all of college lacrosse last year, notably held Pat Kavanaugh to 0 points. You may have heard Pat Kavanaugh won the Twarton last year, on as well as the national championship. So and Jack Kask as well, 33 saves, 6 goals against. He's been outstanding all year. I'm sure he's heard some of the talk we've been doing on the OJLL broadcast about the outstanding goaltenders out here, and should be a fun battle once we get to the Minto Cup. And as Kask seems to be the next one in a long line of really talented Coquitlam goalies. So 1-0 still in that series as well. The Burnaby offense really balanced. No one scores more than 1 goal, and no one scores more than 2 points. It's obviously been a pretty dynamic offense this year. Joel McCormick led the BCJ ALL in scoring during the season, held to just 2 assists here, but that's what that's what good teams do to you, and certainly that's what Pat Coyle coach teams can do to offensive players as well. And then in the RMLL, not a whole lot to announce after our newsletter on Monday. The Raiders did complete the sweep on Monday night of the Mountaineers, so the Raiders headed to the RMLL playoffs. They will likely await the Edmonton Miners, who head to Saskatchewan for the last 2 games, or for potentially the last 2 games of that series as they look to sweep the SWAT. So game 3 and 4 goes Saturday and Sunday in Saskatchewan, as the Miners will look to punch their ticket to yet another RMLL championship. And, it wasn't a super competitive series between the Raiders and the Mountaineers. 12-5, 13-5, 8-3, and 15-6 were the scores. So the Raiders looking pretty good. A lot of talented guys on that team. Cash Freiters leading the way for the most part in scoring for the Raiders, and looking like a pretty solid team as they head towards a pretty good matchup with the Edmonton Miners. But very rarely you see weekday games in the RMLL given the travel logistics in that league. So we'll await Saturday, Sunday, and then kind of go from there. So that's all I got for Junior A lacrosse. Lots of good MSL lacrosse as well as playoffs kick off in Ontario, and then the WLA still has a few weeks left. So Six Nations and Victoria still undefeated. It's really been the story of the summer in the Senior A lacrosse loop, and should be a pretty fun August for Senior A fans across the country. That's all I got for today. Thank you, and thanks for listening.